Hi, fellas.
Scott, I wanted to ask, you had an opportunity to obviously play for Bill Belichick at some point in your career. What do you remember about him? What was the thing that stood out? And do you think he's going to have a chance to have some success at North Carolina?
Yeah, I played for Bill for my first 2 years in the NFL. Got drafted to the Jets. He was defensive coordinator, DB coach. Probably my number one memory of him, just how smart he is. We'd have a different game plan every week for people, and he did really good at taking away another team's strength and making people beat us left-handed, and just his intelligence. He's dealing with a lot of things everybody in college football is right now, but he's a smart guy and he'll figure it out. I'm glad we have him at home.
Is there a piece of advice that somebody's given you upon your return to UCF that has resonated with you, that you've liked?
Well, everybody has an opinion, right?
But something that you maybe said, yeah, that's not bad, I like it.
I can't think of one piece of advice other than just enjoy it. I learned a lot out in LA, and the biggest thing I learned is making sure to hire right. And I'm really excited about the group of coaches that I have around me. You have a tendency as a coach to hire just who you know, and I didn't do that this time. I looked for the best that I could find, and the group has gelled together really well.
Do they challenge you?
Yeah, in fact, I wanted to hire some people with head coaching experience, from people with different opinions than what I had, and certainly I have to be the one responsible at the end of the day and make the final decision, but I want input from everybody, and I've been getting that from the guys.
How much reset time did you need after Nebraska personally?
I really enjoyed 2 years off. As a coach, you spend a lot of time at it. My kids are now 7, 6, and 3. RJ, Allie, and Capri. I got to spend a whole year with Ashley and the kids, and I'll never get that time back. Kind of during their formative years too. I played more catch with my son and touch football in the yard with him, and going to Little League and seeing my daughter do gymnastics and helping bring up the young one, Capri, and then some time out in LA really helped reset me too. That's such a special building and culture in that organization that it kind of reignited my passion for doing this.
How good is it to have the family now in Orlando with you?
Yeah, I left right before the NFL season started, went out to LA, and Ashley and the kids went out to see me a lot, and I got home quite a bit, but then left straight from there to Orlando, and we left the kids in school until they finished their semester, and they didn't get down until end of May, early June. So everything feels like it's finally normalizing. Got my wife and kids back around me every night, every day, and I'm a lot happier guy for it.
Are they settling in too?
Yeah, they're starting to settle in. It's been a lot of change in a short amount of time, especially for my kids. But my dad was a coach. I think I lived in 18 different houses from the time I was born until my senior year of high school. We went from Crete, Nebraska to Lincoln to O'Neill to Palestine, Texas to McCook to Wood River, and lived in a couple different places at most stops. And, it's hard sometimes, but at the same time, you're able to be more rounded, I think, have more experiences, see more things, and have friends all across the country in different places.
So you appreciate that now?
I appreciate it now. It was hard at the time, and again, I hope we can be in Orlando for quite a while, so we don't have to do that again.
Did you learn something? Going through that process, did you learn something that when you were going through this now with your family, that you're like, I remember what this was like. I don't want to. You talked about being in Orlando for a long time. I don't want to put my family through that or my kids through that.
Yeah, but probably the biggest thing is change is hard. But there's good and bad to every place you go, and as sad as you are to leave one place and close the chapter, there's good things waiting for you around the bend too, and you got to try to keep a positive attitude about it.
Coach, one thing we've seen in the last couple of years is the rise in not just betting, but prop betting in sports. I've heard college basketball players and now football players talking about receiving some really awful messages from fans when they don't hit certain numbers. Do you talk to players about how to deal with those reactions from essentially angry gamblers?
Yeah, You take it on the chin in this business, and it's worse than it used to be. That thing you recorded me with right there, that cell phone, has given everybody a voice, ugly opinions. It used to be really easy not to read the newspaper. It's even harder to block it all out now when it's in your hand 24/7. That can be dangerous. It's dangerous to young kids. And there's a lot of attempts to stop those kind of things going on for young kids, but it affects our players too, and it affects our coaches too. And there's not a lot you can do about it other than and then shut it all off and try not to pay attention to it. But nobody cares what the guy in the 52nd row is saying, and I certainly don't want our players to care about that.
Do you tune it out, or does it still affect you?
It affects me if I let it affect me, but I've been through it about as bad as you can go through it, and you learn not to pay any attention or really care what those people think, as long as you're true to your faith and your family and are working as hard as you can. It's not the critic that matters.
Talk about hiring a little bit. I wonder if you could give us some other words on Coach Cooper and Coach Grinch, how they fit into their respective roles on our staff so far.
Yeah, Coach Coop and I have been together. His dad and I are actually good friends and have fished a lot on the coast of Oregon. I brought Coop to Nebraska. He's honestly one of the sharpest guys I've ever been around, and he sees the game the same as I do. So he's been great and a great fit for me. I took my time with D coordinator and landed on Alex. I really like what he does. I think it fits us from a style perspective. And on top of that, I think he's got a chip on his shoulder like I do. One time he was the hottest defensive coordinator in the country. He went to a spot where it didn't go as good as he wanted to, and he took a lot of that on the chin and a lot of the blame for it. And now I think he's hungry and has a chip on his shoulder, and I think that parallels my track pretty well. So we're both hungry for another chance, and we're collaborating pretty well.
What do you think of coaching against Rich Rodriguez this fall, and what has your experience been like with him?
Rich Rod's great. I've had a lot of respect for him for a long time. I think he was an innovator. I'm excited for him to get another chance too. He had a lot of success, and then kind of like I was talking with Alex Grinch, went to a place and it didn't go well, and people were hard on him. And I'm sure it wasn't all his fault. Sometimes you just land in a situation where you can't get it done, and that's coaching. A lot of times it can get personal. I've lived through that and been accused of a lot of things. I think he's had a similar experience, and the world loves a redemption story, and Rich Rod winning at West Virginia again will be a great redemption. I'm rooting for him.
Scott, you're talking about coaches and Mackenzie coming on, giving him his first chance. What have you seen from him so far? I mean, getting an opportunity to be an assistant coach and kind of growing into that role.
Yeah, Mackenzie is going to be an elite coach. He's got all the talent to do it, an instant connection with players and credibility with players. He's a good teacher, a good communicator. And the biggest thing is sometimes as a young coach, you have a tendency to think you know everything. Mackenzie knows a lot, but he's still hungry to learn. And he's going to be really good at what he does. He already is.
You mentioned that you're really happy to be back in Orlando. It seemed so perfect when you went to your alma mater coming out. That amazing season you had here. Why was it not perfect?
I want to keep it about UCF. I'm just excited to be back at UCF.
The designated student athlete list, they were talking a little bit about that last week, where you can designate some different players for under that listing to help out for your roster. Have you dealt with that at all yet, or is that something that's kind of...
Yeah, we kind of just did it the right way, if I'm being honest. I mean, the whole argument has been about walk-ons that have had an opportunity and not losing their opportunity, so we put the walk-ons on as those student athletes. I think some other people are trying to tweak the rule to put a DSA on people that they think, even scholarship kids, that they might not want anymore after spring ball, or try to get out of some contracts. We're not going to do that. We're just going to use the rule as was intended.
You mentioned that Bill Belichick's he's dealing with things on this landscape that new to all of you guys. So much of it's different from the last time you were at UCF. How do you kind of see that as you try to build this thing again with this kind of a totally different set of circumstances?
Ask me the question again, sorry.
It's okay. Bill, you mentioned that Bill's just like the rest of you guys dealing with this new landscape.
Yeah.
It's totally different than when you were at UCF the first time. How do you kind of see building it again with things so different?
You know, every place is different. I think a different formula works everywhere, and a different formula works at the same place at different times too. You know, and you got to hit all that and do well to make something work, particularly if you're on the bottom and trying to work your way to the top. Things are changing in college football. All you can really be sure of is it's going to change more. 6 months from now, there'll be new rules. You got to stay light on your feet and try to figure it out as best you can, and surround yourself with as many intelligent people that can help you solve problems as possible.
You just said you want the emphasis to be on UCF, but your name's popped today from this event because of Nebraska again.
Yeah, I got no more to say.
But it just sort of lingers over. You need to prove some things at UCF and
I'm just
win at
excited
UCF.
to be at UCF. When you go through something that doesn't work, just ready for another chance, and I'm ready for another chance. This is about the Big 12. This is about UCF. I'm excited to be back. Everybody has success in life and has failures in life for all sorts of different reasons. I'm excited to be back in a place where my family and I get treated well, and looking forward for an opportunity to try to do what I love again.
How do you view the 2017 season now, near close to a decade past? Is it a positive for UCF? Does it continue to be a positive?
2017?
Yeah.
That was a special group of guys, and I really believe that the success we had those years, even after 2017, positioned UCF to be in a position where it could be considered to be in a Big 12. We're in a completely different spot because we're in this league and we didn't get left behind. And I think that 2017 had a lot to do with that. If there's any more changes down the road, you know, it's our job as guardians of UCF football right now and custodians of UCF football to try to have as much success as we can to try to be positioned well if there are any more changes. And that's one of my goals at UCF is to help elevate it to that kind of position.
Do you think that season that could happen again at UCF? Do you think that magical kind of year could happen again?
Yeah, listen, I think that's, well, there's no way you could have a better 2-year turnaround than what we had. I thought it would be a 3-year turnaround when I came, so I thought we'd have to recruit to it and develop to it. You know, you can change a team faster now because of the transfer portal, but we're in a different league now too. This is a tough league with a lot of well-established football teams, good coaches. I don't think you have to go undefeated to have success. We need to keep making improvements and give ourselves chances in games and start winning. If you do start winning at UCF because of our location and ability to attract talent, some really special things could happen, but undefeated isn't even on my radar.
This is a little bit related to that, but there was so much talk during that undefeated season about the path to a championship or not a path to a championship, national championship. That path's there now. What's that like for you?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that put in a lot of work at UCF to make it grow, to put us in a position where now we have a bite at the apple. And now we got a lot of work to do to climb an even bigger mountain, to make ourselves relevant, to give ourselves a chance to be considered for those things.
Do you read like clippings in the like some coaches used to read clippings in the morning when they come in their office about their team? Do you still do that, or do you do that?
No, it's interesting you asked that. I don't read anything. I'm not on social media. I don't want to be on social media. I don't think it's healthy.
Yeah.
But they used to tell us as players and coaches not to read the newspaper, and it's just impossible now. Mike Tomlin talked to me several years ago now about how they handle it, and with cell phones in your hand all the time, it's impossible to get away from it. So he addresses the elephant in the room instead of pretending that it doesn't exist anymore, and we'll probably take a similar approach to it. We'll make it funny at times, what people are mean tweet style, what people are saying about everybody, and also use it as some motivation. But people can be nasty, and I've experienced the worst of that. So I think I have a little bit of experience to help my players with.
Earlier, Coach Dillingham talked about the challenge of sustained success, not just going from the bottom to the top, but continuing that. Do you look at that as well, not just building UCF back, but that building this culture and sustained success?
Yeah, culture is a big part, and that term's overused in coach speak, but it's true. You got to have a group of people that put the team ahead of themselves. It'll be interesting for me to see, and I really don't know the answer, if you can have programs that sustain excellence anymore. Every year you're going to have a brand new team because of the transfer portal and NIL. You got to build a new team. We have 70 new players. I hope we don't have anywhere near that anytime again, but next year's team will be completely different. And with all the turnover you have, I can see teams winning 1-2 years in a row and doing well, but every year is going to be a new year, and I think you might see a little more like the NFL. A couple good years, one down year, then you're back, and you got to select all of the right guys and turn a collection of individuals into a team every single year with a new group of guys. And it's going to be harder to have extended success, I think.
You mentioned trying to maybe have some fun and mean tweet type things with some of your players, but does that work? You mentioned you've been through some rough things. Stuff like that have worked with you when things got dark?
Oh yeah, we're not going to put the worst ones up there. There's been some things said about me that I wouldn't want to read either, but that are completely untrue, by the way. But we'll pick the right things, use it as motivation. I think what Mike talked about and what we're doing is this is what they're saying, what people are saying, and I think that can, if used the right way, can address the elephant in the room and take some stress out, and also we can get a couple laughs out of it, even at our own expense.
You've been part of college football for a long time as a player and a coach and all this stuff. Is the sport and the game in a better place now than when you were a player?
Oh, absolutely not. I think there were necessary changes that they put off for a long time, and because they didn't address them, we landed in a bad place. I don't know enough to even say this, but it reminds me a little bit of pro golf, and they stuck to their guns and didn't change anything until the point where live gets started and everybody jumps, and now the sport's in a worse place. Hopefully there's smart people out there like Brian Seeley and other people that are trying to put some guardrails around this and get it back to a place where it's manageable, and they got my full support.
You talk your time in the NFL. Do you feel like this is a point where, I guess, the college game, they're having that maybe pro mentality maybe would benefit programs, where when programs are bringing in GMs, they're bringing in guys who've had experience in the NFL ranks. Is that something you think more college programs will end up doing? Maybe is trying to bring in some of those professional type.
Yeah, maybe, Matt, but you got to remember in the NFL they can evaluate guys, and then if that guy's available when they pick, they can draft them. You got to add the fact in college that you're still recruiting guys and then negotiating with them before they make a decision. So there's more to it than just evaluation. There's evaluation, there's valuation, whether we think this guy's worth. There's decisions if somebody offers a little more, if it's worth paying him more. There's roster management. It's a way more complicated job in college because there's not rules around this right now. It's the Wild West. And so trying to navigate it, I think you got to be a real problem solver and just hope and pray for a time when everybody actually has a salary cap and it's a level playing field and figure it out.
Collective bargaining help? There's talk about this idea of at some point having collective bargaining and everyone getting on the same page.
Yeah, again, I'm a finance major, but that's a bridge too far for me to talk about. Other than, there was a couple kids this year that I've negotiated a new deal with 6 times because you come to agreement and they're not even in the portal, but the school will call them and an agent will tell them that a school offered them more, and they're back in your office asking for more, and then you get that settled and somebody else calls them and asks for more, and you have to figure out if you want to pay them that or not, and then the second portal comes around and you're dealing with the same thing. And at least in the NFL, you sign a kid and they sign a contract, they're locked into that contract, and I think probably eventually there'll be a lot of fighting, and then we'll have to get to some place like that.
A few minutes ago, you took a picture with your guys that are here, and you kind of lit up. And every time I see you with the players, you smile. Is that your favorite part?
Yeah, being around the guys. I'm sorry, I'd rather being around the guys than you guys. I've just been burnt too many times. It's a brotherhood, and I'm not sure how much of that sense they had last year, but it's really starting to develop on our team. And we got to nurture that and let it grow. But those 4 guys that are here are pretty special guys and going to be some of our best leaders.
You're going to need that during difficult times, right? You're going to need that brotherhood to get through challenging moments.
Yeah, I've said this a few times today. I love the talent we have on our team. It's unproven and inexperienced, and the big question for me is how we're going to respond. Are we ready to fight through and get it done? Are we going to respond well when things aren't going well? Or are we going to fall apart? And if things are going well, can we be mature enough to keep working and stay on the right path? And I don't know that about the team yet, and I won't know that until we hit those challenges.
What do you know? What are you more confident about now coming out of spring camp about this team than when you went into it?
I'm confident about the level of talent on our football team. It's just unproven talent. We don't have a lot of returning production, but we got talent. They haven't come together as a team completely, but they're talented.
How's that different than 2016?
We haven't hit any adversity yet, but they're talented. I think even in 2016 we had, Shaquille and Drico and Pittman and Wyatt Miller and some guys that have played football. We just have fewer of those guys right now, and even the ones we have that have played, a lot of them came from another school, so it hasn't come together yet. So again, we got a collection of people that I think are talented enough to win if we come together as a football team and handle adversity and successfully.
What were the conversations like this offseason bringing McKenzie on staff, and what's he done so far with the quarterback room?
Ironically, I came down here to coach the reboot of the U.S. Army game in this very building. We got beat by quarterback at Kansas State now, ironically too, but McKenzie came down to coach with me, and I was able to watch him coach and deal with the players, and I knew then that if I ever got another job, I'd hire him because he did such a good job.
Yeah, he not only the goodwill with the fan base, but what are some of the things that he just provides as a coach that he can help Taven and McCamp and some of the quarterbacks?
Yeah,
here?
there's some goodwill with the fan base. I would not have hired McKenzie if it was just a PR move. If I didn't think he was a good coach, I wouldn't have hired him. So he's earned that. He's made sacrifices to get there. He has an instant connection with the team because of who he is and just because of his personality. He knows football. He does a great job communicating it and teaching it, and he's humble. So sky's the limit for him as a coach.
I asked some of the players today. I mentioned how playing for a coach that's younger, a guy who's looks like he can still play football today, and how
thank you.
They love that. And I mentioned how you.
Oh, you were talking about me?
Yeah, and I was talking about you, and I mentioned the fact you did the scout team years ago. You ran the scout team against Navy for the Navy game. And I said, what do you think about having your coach being able to do that? They were all in favor of that. Do you think you'd ever run a scout team again?
No, we were getting ready for Navy, and Coach Shenander was nervous we weren't getting good enough looks, and I did that my whole life, so I decided I'd go over and do it. I did it 2 days. I felt good about my performance. I didn't feel good about how my body felt the next day after 2 days of that. But that was 8 years ago. There's zero chance I'm doing that now. My joints won't.
Speaking of 8 years ago, do you talk to today's players about your last stint here and all the success, or you just kind of let that go without
Yeah, we talked to him about all those things. What happened last year at UCF doesn't matter. We have a new team. It's completely different. What happened in 2017 is at times relevant, but this is a new team. So we only point those things out, not to live in the past, but just to help them with any lessons that we want them to learn.
Coach, since you are back in the same league as Cincinnati, I'm just kind of curious on that rivalry and to kind of put you on the spot a little bit, 2017 UCF versus 2021 Cincinnati.
2021.
Cincinnati made the college football playoff.
Oh, yeah. I didn't watch 21 Cincinnati enough to know. I'm proud of both schools, to be honest. We had it rolling when I was at UCF, and we thumped Cincinnati pretty good, and then Cincinnati got it rolling with Coach Fickle and had an unbelievable stretch. I think both schools just did a lot of things right to put themselves in position to get adopted by the Big 12, and now we're both trying to find our footing here, but I think based on what has happened before, both schools have the capability of doing it.
Got time for a few more?
Scott, there's 9 established returning quarterbacks in this league. Is that kind of a daunting feeling when you're going to be going down looking at a lot of
9
guys?
established returners? I think that's probably going to be an unusual number for any league. But yes, I would say that's daunting. But I've said this a lot today. Any one of the 3 guys that I saw in spring, I would feel good about our chances going into games with. Just the sooner we can figure it out, the better. But again, we're not going to anoint anybody. Somebody's got to go earn it, and they're all 3 talented enough to be really good players.
Do you have a timetable with that? Do you want to accomplish it by a certain point in camp?
I want to have accomplished it yesterday, but it isn't clear yet. And I'll say the same thing to those guys. So the sooner one person steps up and takes it, I think the better for continuity. But I'm not going to force it to happen until it's clear. It needs to be clear to the whole team too. When the whole team can see it and knows, then there's no controversy, and then we can move forward.
All right. Thanks everybody.